I want you to take responsibility for taking my first kiss. Lyla stared at him. For several seconds, she said nothing. She simply sat behind her desk, staring at the tall Korean man standing on the other side of her office as though he had just announced something completely absurd. Then she laughed. Not a small laugh. A genuine, uncontrollable laugh. You came all the way to my office to say that. Tae Hyun didn't even blink. Yes. Lyla covered her mouth, trying to compose herself. I'm sorry, but your first kiss. Yes. And somehow, I'm responsible. You kissed me. You kissed me back. I did. Then how is that entirely my responsibility? Tae Hyun folded his arms across his chest. Because you started it. Lyla stared at him in disbelief. This man was serious. She remembered the party vaguely, the music, the laughter, the drinks, and the handsome stranger who had sat beside her and somehow made conversation feel effortless. She remembered talking to him for what seemed like hours. After that, things became blurry. And apparently, somewhere between her second and third drink, she had kissed him. She had been hoping never to remember it. Now he was standing in her office demanding compensation. Lyla shook her head. You're unbelievable. Tae Hyun reached into his jacket and placed his phone on her desk. Watch this. Her smile disappeared. The video began. There she was, sitting beside Tae Hyun at the party, laughing as they talked. She looked happy, carefree, and clearly drunk. Then she leaned toward him. Lyla's eyes widened. Oh my goodness. The screen showed her kissing him. She immediately covered her face. Turn it off. Tae Hyun paused the video. You remember now? I remember enough. You kissed me first. I was drunk. I know. And whoever recorded that video had no business doing it. Dong Minute. Your friend? Yes. Lyla groaned. This is humiliating. Tae Hyun studied her quietly. You're embarrassed. Of course I'm embarrassed. I wasn't. She lowered her hands and looked at him. What? I wasn't embarrassed. His calm voice made her heart beat strangely. You kissed me, he continued. And I kissed you back. Lyla didn't know what to say. Tae Hyun picked up his phone. It was my first kiss. She stared at him. You're telling me you've never kissed anyone before? No. Seriously. Yes. She looked at him suspiciously. Then why are you acting like this is some kind of business transaction? Because I want you to take responsibility. How? Date me. Lyla burst out laughing again. No. Tae Hyun's expression remained perfectly calm. You haven't even thought about it. I don't need to. Think about it. No. He stood and straightened his suit. I'll come back. Lyla frowned. You really won't give up? Tae Hyun looked at her for a moment before walking toward the door. No. Then he left, leaving Lyla staring at the closed door. She shook her head. What kind of man demands a date because a woman accidentally stole his first kiss? What Lyla didn't know was that Tae Hyun wasn't actually chasing responsibility. He was chasing the woman who had made him feel something he had never experienced before. The morning after the party, Tae Hyun sat at the breakfast table in his penthouse, staring at his untouched coffee. He couldn't concentrate. Every time he closed his eyes, the same memory returned. Lyla. The beautiful black woman who had somehow managed to turn an ordinary evening into something he couldn't stop thinking about. He remembered how easily they had talked. She had not treated him like the powerful CEO everyone knew. She hadn't seemed impressed by his expensive watch, his tailored suit, or his family name. She had simply talked to him. And he had enjoyed it. Perhaps too much. Tae Hyun was still lost in thought when the front door opened. Dong Minute walked in without knocking, carrying 2 coffees and wearing a grin that immediately made Tae Hyun suspicious. Good morning, Mr. Serious. Tae Hyun looked at him. Why are you here? To check on my best friend. I'm fine. Are you? Yes. Dong Minute placed a coffee on the table. Then why have you been staring at the same cup for 10 minutes? Tae Hyun ignored him. Dong Minute's grin widened. I know what you're thinking about. Tae Hyun's eyes narrowed. Don't. The woman. Dong Minute. The kiss. Tae Hyun's expression hardened. Delete the video. Dong Minute laughed. So you remember? I remember enough. Enough? Dong Minute pulled out his phone. I remember everything. Before Tae Hyun could stop him, Dong Minute played the video. Tae Hyun watched silently. There was Lyla, sitting beside him, laughing as they talked. Then she leaned closer. The kiss happened. Tae Hyun remembered the surprise. But what surprised him even more was what happened afterward. He hadn't pulled away. He had kissed her back. And now, watching the video again, he realized something uncomfortable. He wanted to see her. Not because of the kiss. Because of the woman. Who is she? He finally asked. Dong Minut's eyebrows rose. Ah. What? You're interested? Answer the question. Dong Minut laughed and began searching. Her name is Lyla. She's a florist. Apparently, she owns a floral business downtown. Tae Hyun listened carefully. A florist? Yes. She started small and now has a business center. Dong Minut looked at him suspiciously. What are you planning? Nothing. That's exactly what you say before doing something unreasonable. Tae Hyun stood. I need her address. Dong Minut stared at him. You're actually going after her? Tae Hyun picked up his jacket. I want to talk to her. About the kiss. Tae Hyun paused. About everything. Later that afternoon, his car stopped outside Lyla's business center. Through the glass doors, Tae Hyun saw her arranging flowers. She wore a simple cream blouse beneath a green apron, her curls loosely gathered behind her head. She looked nothing like the woman in the video. Yet somehow, she was even more beautiful. Tae Hyun stepped out of the car. He had spent years making decisions worth millions without hesitation. But standing outside Lyla's flower shop, he suddenly felt strangely uncertain. Still, he walked inside. Lyla looked up. Her eyes widened. You? Tae Hyun nodded. Yes. Me. She sighed. Why do I have a feeling this isn't over? He looked at her calmly. Because it isn't. And for the first time, Lyla realized the man who had demanded responsibility for his first kiss might actually be serious about finding a place in her life. You came back. Lyla stood behind the counter of her flower shop, staring at Tae Hyun with disbelief. He had arrived only a few days after their first conversation, dressed in a dark suit that made him look completely out of place among the colorful roses and lilies surrounding him. Tae Hyun glanced around the shop. I told you I would. Lyla folded her arms. I thought you were joking. I wasn't. She sighed. You're really serious about this first kiss thing, aren't you? Tae Hyun looked directly at her. I was serious about seeing you again. That answer caught her off guard. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Then she shook her head. Listen, Tae Hyun. Whatever happened that night was a mistake. I was drunk, and you were caught up in the moment. That doesn't mean we have to start dating. I agree. Lyla blinked. You agree? Yes. Then why are you here? Because I want to know you. She stared at him. Tae Hyun continued calmly, the kiss gave me a reason to find you. But I'm not asking you to date me because you owe me something. Lyla's expression softened slightly. That sounds very different from what you said in my office. I changed my approach. You changed your approach. Yes. She couldn't help laughing. You're strange. So I've been told. He looked at the flowers surrounding them. Do you own this entire place? Yes. You built it yourself? I did. There was quiet admiration in his eyes. Lyla noticed. Don't look so surprised. I'm not. You are. I simply didn't expect someone like you to build something this successful. Someone like me? A woman who seems to laugh at everything. Lyla smiled. You've only known me for a few days. That's why I want to know more. Before she could answer, a delivery driver entered carrying several heavy boxes. Lyla immediately rushed over. I'll take those. Tae Hyun stepped forward. I'll help. You don't have to. I know. He picked up 2 boxes before she could stop him. Lyla stared. You're a CEO. Yes. You're carrying flower boxes. Yes. This is probably the strangest thing I've ever seen. Tae Hyun glanced at her. Where should I put them? She smiled despite herself. Later that week, they unexpectedly met again at a charity exhibition where Lyla had supplied floral arrangements. Tae Hyun approached her after the event. Dinner? No. Coffee? No. Lunch? No. He considered her answer. Then one walk. Lyla laughed. You're negotiating like we're signing a business contract. I know what I want. And what exactly do you want? He looked at her. One chance to know you without the party, the alcohol, or the video. Lyla became quiet. There was something different about him now. He wasn't demanding anything. He was simply asking. "One chance?" she asked. "One." She hesitated before finally nodding. "One date." Tae Hyun smiled. "That's enough." As they walked away together, neither realized that the woman who had accidentally stolen his first kiss was slowly becoming the one person he couldn't stop thinking about. Lyla almost regretted agreeing to the date the moment she stepped out of her apartment. She stood beside Tae Hyun's car, staring at him suspiciously. "You said this would be simple." "It is." She looked at his car. Then at his driver. Then at the elegant black suit he was wearing. "This doesn't look simple." Tae Hyun's lips curved slightly. "You said you didn't want anything extravagant." "I did. So I chose somewhere quiet." He opened the car door for her. "Trust me." Lyla hesitated before getting inside. A short drive later, they arrived at a beautiful restaurant overlooking the Han River. It was elegant but surprisingly peaceful, with only a few tables occupied. Lyla looked around. "Okay. This is actually nice. I knew you'd like it." They sat across from each other. For the first few minutes, the conversation was surprisingly easy. They talked about her flower business, his company, favorite foods, childhood memories, and the things they wanted to accomplish in the future. Lyla noticed that Tae Hyun listened carefully whenever she spoke. He never interrupted. He never checked his phone. He simply watched her with an attention she wasn't used to receiving. "So," she said eventually, "why did you become a CEO?" Tae Hyun leaned back. "My family expected it. Did you want it?" He paused. "Yes and no." Lyla smiled. "That sounds complicated." "It is." He explained that growing up, his life had always been planned around responsibility. His family had expected perfection from him, and he had learned early to control his emotions. "That's why you're so serious," Lyla teased. "Probably." "You barely smile." "I smile." "When?" "Sometimes." That's not an answer. For the first time that evening, Tae Hyun laughed. Lyla stared at him. "There. You did it." "What?" "Smile." He shook his head. "You're enjoying this." "A little." The conversation continued until their meals were finished. Later, they walked outside. The evening air was cool, and the city lights reflected beautifully across the river. Lyla looked at the view. "This is beautiful. I thought you might like it." She turned toward him. "You really did remember everything I said." "I told you. I pay attention." There was a quiet moment between them. Then Tae Hyun spoke. "I should tell you something." Lyla looked at him. "When I first came to your office, I said you needed to take responsibility for my first kiss." "Yes." "Your ridiculous argument." "I know." He smiled. "But the truth is, I didn't come because of the kiss." She frowned. "Then why?" "Because I couldn't stop thinking about you." Her expression softened. "The kiss gave me an excuse to find you." Lyla looked away, suddenly nervous. "That is a much better reason." "I thought so." She laughed softly. Tae Hyun extended his hand. "So, Lyla. Was the date terrible?" She looked at his hand, then placed hers in it. "No. Good. Actually." She smiled. "It was better than I expected." Tae Hyun's eyes warmed. "Then maybe I can have a second date." Lyla shook her head playfully. "Don't get ahead of yourself, Mr. CEO." But she didn't let go of his hand. Lyla had made one simple rule when she agreed to date Tae Hyun. She would not fall in love with him. It was a sensible rule. At least, that was what she told herself. Tae Hyun was a powerful CEO with a complicated family, a demanding career, and a world completely different from hers. Lyla had built her flower business from the ground up and loved the independence she had fought so hard to create. She wasn't looking for a man to change her life. Yet somehow, Tae Hyun was becoming part of it. It started with small things. He remembered that she preferred coffee without too much sugar. He knew which flowers she loved most. When she had a stressful day at the shop, he didn't tell her to relax. He simply showed up with dinner and sat quietly beside her while she worked. One evening, Lyla was closing the flower shop when she heard the familiar sound of a car outside. She looked through the window. Tae Hyun stepped out. She smiled before she could stop herself. "You're here again?" He walked inside carrying 2 bags. "You haven't eaten." "How do you know?" "You skipped lunch." Lyla stared at him. "How do you know that?" "You told me this morning." She shook her head. "You remember too much." I remember things that matter. Her heart skipped. She quickly turned away. Put the food there. Tae Hyun placed the bags on the counter. I brought your favorite. Lyla opened one container and smiled. You're getting dangerously good at this boyfriend thing. He looked at her. Boyfriend? She froze. I didn't mean. Tae Hyun smiled. I don't mind. Lyla laughed nervously. Don't make it a big deal. I won't. But his smile remained. Their relationship continued to grow. Tae Hyun visited her shop between meetings. Lyla occasionally brought lunch to his office. They started sharing private jokes, long conversations, and quiet moments that felt more intimate than either of them expected. Even Dong-minute noticed. One afternoon, he walked into Tae Hyun's office and found his friend staring at a photograph of Lyla on his phone. Dong-minute raised an eyebrow. You're finished. Tae Hyun looked up. What? You've fallen. I haven't. You're smiling at your phone. So? You never smile at your phone. Tae Hyun put the phone down. Leave. Dong-minute laughed. You're in love. Tae Hyun ignored him. But later that evening, when he saw Lyla waiting outside her shop, his expression immediately softened. She walked toward him. You're late. I know. You're always late. I had a meeting. She smiled. Busy CEO. Busy boyfriend. Lyla stopped. There it was again. That word. Boyfriend. This time, she didn't correct him. Instead, she reached for his hand. And as they walked together beneath the evening lights, Lyla finally admitted something she had been trying desperately to deny. She was falling for him. Not because he was rich. Not because he was a CEO. Not because of that ridiculous first kiss story. She was falling because Tae Hyun had become the man who made her feel seen, respected, and cared for. And that had never been part of her plan. The secret didn't last. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Lyla was arranging a fresh delivery of roses when her phone began vibrating repeatedly on the counter. At first, she ignored it. Then one of her employees rushed into the shop. Lyla, you need to see this. She turned. What happened? Her employee handed her the phone. Lyla's heart dropped. A photograph of her and Tae Hyun filled the screen. They were leaving a restaurant together, holding hands. The headline beneath it was even worse. Korean billionaire CEO Tae Hyun spotted with mysterious black woman. Lyla stared at the screen. Oh no. Within minutes, more photographs appeared. Tae Hyun opening a car door for her. The two of them walking beside the Han River. Tae Hyun visiting her flower shop. Even one picture of him carrying flower boxes. The internet had noticed everything. Lyla's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages flooded in. Some people were curious. Some were supportive. Others were cruel. She locked her phone and placed it on the counter. I can't believe this. Her employee looked concerned. Are you okay? I don't know. Across the city, Tae Hyun was sitting in a board meeting when his assistant quietly placed a phone beside him. Sir. Tae Hyun looked at the screen. His expression immediately hardened. He saw the photographs. Then he saw the comments. His jaw tightened. Who published these? We're investigating. Tae Hyun stood. The meeting room became silent. Continue without me. He left. His first call was to Lyla. She didn't answer. He called again. Still nothing. By the time he reached her flower shop, Lyla was sitting alone in her office. She looked exhausted. You shouldn't have come, she said. Tae Hyun closed the door behind him. Why? Because this is going to affect you. It already has. I mean your family. Your company. Your reputation. He walked toward her. Do you want to end this? Lyla looked down. I don't know. Tae Hyun's expression softened. You're afraid. Of course I'm afraid. She finally looked at him. Your world is completely different from mine. You're a CEO. I'm a florist. People are already saying I'm with you because of your money. That doesn't matter. It matters to me. Tae Hyun sat beside her. You know what matters to me. She shook her head. You. Lyla's eyes filled with emotion. My family won't like this, he continued. Some people at the company won't like it either. But I'm not going to let strangers decide who I can love. Lyla looked at him. Love. Tae Hyun paused. He hadn't meant to say it yet. But the word was already between them. Yes, he said quietly. I love you. Lyla's breath caught. Tae Hyun reached for her hand. I didn't choose you because of a kiss. I chose you because somewhere along the way, you became the person I don't want to lose. Lyla squeezed his hand. For the first time since the photographs appeared, she smiled. Then don't lose me. I won't. Outside, the world was already talking. But inside that small flower shop, Tae Hyun and Lyla made a decision. They would face it together. For the first time since the photographs had appeared online, Lyla woke up without reaching for her phone. She had finally learned that she couldn't control what strangers said about her. What mattered was what happened between her and Tae Hyun when nobody else was watching. Their relationship had survived the attention, the rumors, and the disapproval from people who believed they knew what was best for them. Tae Hyun had remained beside her through all of it. He never asked her to become someone else. Instead, he encouraged her to keep growing her flower business. When she opened a second studio, he was there on opening day, standing quietly in the back while she greeted customers. When she had a difficult business decision, he listened without taking over. And when she succeeded, he celebrated her as though her victory were his own. One evening, Tae Hyun arrived at the flower studio just before closing. Lyla looked up from her desk. You're early. I finished my meetings. That's rare. He smiled. Come with me. Where? You'll see. 20 minutes later, they arrived at the private estate where the party had taken place months earlier. Lyla stepped out of the car and looked around. You brought me here? Yes. She smiled. This is where everything started. Tae Hyun nodded. They walked toward the balcony where they had first met. The same city lights stretched across the horizon. Lyla leaned against the railing. I can't believe we were strangers that night. So can I. She laughed. You were so serious. I was always serious. No. You were worse. Tae Hyun smiled. You were drunk. And you recorded the kiss. I didn't record it. Your friend did. Don't minute. They both laughed. The awkward memory that once embarrassed Lyla had somehow become one of their favorite stories. After a moment, Tae Hyun became quiet. Do you remember what I told you when I came to your office? Lyla turned toward him. How could I forget? I demanded that you take responsibility for my first kiss. She laughed. You were ridiculous. I know. He looked at her. But I want to change that now. Lyla's smile faded. What do you mean? I don't want you to feel responsible for anything. He stepped closer. You don't owe me a relationship because you kissed me that night. Lyla listened silently. I don't even care that it was my first kiss anymore. Her eyes softened. Then what do you care about? You. The answer came without hesitation. I care about the woman I met that night. The woman who built her own business. The woman who challenges me, makes me laugh, and somehow makes my life feel less lonely. Lyla's eyes became glassy. Tae Hyun. He took her hand. That kiss may have brought me to you, but it isn't why I love you. She smiled through her tears. And I don't love you because you're a CEO. I know. I love you because you're you. Tae Hyun squeezed her hand. For a moment, they simply stood together. The first kiss had been unexpected. Their love had been even more unexpected. And now, neither of them wanted to imagine life without the other. 1 year after the night that had changed everything, Lyla stood inside her flower studio, surrounded by hundreds of roses. The business she had once built from a tiny shop had grown into something she was proud of. Her name was now known throughout the city, not because she was Tae Hyun's girlfriend, but because she had created something of her own. She smiled as she looked around. Then she heard the familiar sound of the door opening. You're still working? Lyla turned. Tae Hyun stood at the entrance wearing a dark suit, his hands in his pockets. She smiled. Some of us have businesses to run. I have a business too. You're the CEO. You have people for everything. Not everything. He walked toward her. Lyla noticed something different about him. What? What? You look suspicious. I always look like this. No. Today you look like you're hiding something. Tae Hyun smiled. Come with me. Where? You'll see. He took her hand and led her outside. They drove for nearly 30 minutes before stopping at a quiet garden overlooking the city. Lyla stepped out and immediately recognized the place. This is the first place we had our real conversation. She looked at him. You remembered. I remember everything about you. They walked slowly through the garden. Tae Hyun stopped beneath an arch covered in flowers. Lyla smiled. You arranged all this? I had help. From Dong Minute? Yes. She laughed. That explains why there are so many flowers. Tae Hyun reached into his pocket. Lyla's smile disappeared when she saw the small velvet box. Tae Hyun. He opened it. Inside was a beautiful ring. She covered her mouth. I know how our story started, he said. Lyla looked at him through tearful eyes. I came to your office demanding that you take responsibility for a kiss. You were very dramatic. I was. And annoying. I know. She laughed softly. Tae Hyun took her hand. But I don't want to ask you to take responsibility anymore. Her expression softened. I don't want you to stay because of something that happened when we were strangers. I don't want you to stay because you think you owe me anything. He lowered himself onto one knee. I want you to stay because you choose me. Lyla's eyes filled with tears. Tae Hyun. You became the woman I look for when my day is difficult. The person I want to tell everything to. The person who makes my home feel like home. He held out the ring. Lyla, will you marry me? She looked at him for several seconds. Then she laughed through her tears. You finally learned how to ask properly. Tae Hyun smiled. So that's a yes. She nodded. Yes. He stood and gently placed the ring on her finger. Lyla looked down at it, overwhelmed by everything they had been through. A drunken kiss. A ridiculous demand. A stubborn CEO. A florist who had refused him more than once. And somehow, they had found something neither of them had expected. Tae Hyun pulled her into a warm embrace. Lyla smiled against his shoulder. You know what? What? If you had told me that night that your ridiculous first kiss complaint would end with a marriage proposal, I would have laughed in your face. I probably would have believed you. She laughed. Their story had started with an unexpected kiss. But their future wasn't built on that kiss. It was built on every conversation, every difficult moment, every choice, and every time they chose each other. And this time, there was no arrangement. No obligation. No responsibility. Just love, and two people freely choosing the same future. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please do not forget to like this video, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our stories. Most importantly, tell us where you're watching from.